and welcome to the Wright Perspective. Today, we're going to recap and discuss a fantasy movie from 1984 that is considered a classic in many circles, The NeverEnding Story. It's co-written and directed by Wolfgang Petersen, and it's based on a 1979 novel by the same name, written by Michael Ende. And the film was produced by Bernd Eichinger and Dieter Geisler. It stars Noah Hathaway, Barret Oliver, Tami Stronach, Patricia Hayes, Sidney Bromley, Gerald McRaney, Moses Gunn, and Alan Oppenheimer. And so we're going to discuss plot and direction, characters and acting, cinematography, sound, and music. But first, we have to introduce ourselves, and then we're going to decide on the voting symbol that we are going to use to rate this movie. For those that are new to the Wright Perspective, we always pick a voting symbol that is based on the movie. It's inspired by the movie, and we use that to vote at the end to determine whether the movie is a classic from the Wright Perspective. So let's kick off the intros.
Hi, I'm Aubrey Wright. I'm the oldest.
I'm Genia Wright. I'm the middle.
Guten Tag, I'm Brittany, and I'm the youngest.
The Gates.
I felt after all those last names, that was appropriate.
Clearly, this movie, within 10 seconds of the opening credits, you're like, this is German. Clearly, German. It's like German music, German visuals, you know, the characters' names. You're like, clearly, this is German.
You get a German feel from the theme song?
Oh my goodness.
Listen, the never-ending story.
I mean, I
was like, what you don't know is, I think all of us took German for 12 years.
Yes,
right?
That's right. Well, I took it for 8.
8, okay.
I took it for 8.
Switched over to
no. That's right. That's right. Like,
y'all took it for 12. I
took
it for 8.
I didn't start in first grade. I started in third, I think.
Okay.
So I think it was, you're right.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
it was like 9 years.
I skipped out early on it. I kept German from 1st through 8th. And then I got to high school and switched to Spanish. Worst mistake I ever made. Worst mistake, because now I'm not fluent in either one of those languages.
Listen.
Hashtag Wright Perspective tangents.
Yeah. Okay.
Sprechen Sie Espanol?
See and y'all. Okay. Because there's a confusing amount of overlap. You'd be surprised. But anyway, back to this top-notch movie. So what voting symbol are we going to use for this movie? I kind of felt like it was obvious. You know.
I think it's obvious that I need to hear your picks because I be waiting for them the whole.
Well, this one it was so obvious. Okay, I have 3 options, and
I can't wait.
The third one is the one that I
start from. In your mind, what's the worst to the best? I want you to end at the best.
Okay.
All right.
So. The least awesome of these 3 awesome options is a book. Because at the end of the day, this movie is really a book come to life. Okay, we're watching a child's imagination bring a book to life. That's what you're watching. And so I think a book is a viable option.
I just love how
it's a story.
So good.
I just love how your bad ideas always have a thought process to them, though. They always make sense.
It always resonates in the heart.
It always
in the mind.
All right.
Well, the second one, which is also again, it's very good,
which is slightly more awesome. It's slightly more awesome.
Just a skosh more. And it is an ivory tower. Because why? That's where the Empress lives. Okay. And at the end of the day, in the movie, that is the only part of Fantasia that remains and when it almost meets its demise. And so the ivory tower was a part of the original Fantasia and the Fantasia that exists at the end of the movie. So there's something about that tower that to me is an important symbol for this movie.
I'm also need you to not give Brittany additional ways to inject wokeness into a 1984 child's fantasy movie.
It needs it. Goodness, it needs it.
Okay.
And listen, stay woke, my Black king.
Okay.
It's everywhere we go.
I just want you to know.
They want you to take the day off, bro. They want you to take the day off.
I want you to know I know what you picked for the most awesome. And I actually am going to agree. But I just want you to know up front that I already know. All right, so what was it?
Good. The top one is, of course, the Orin, which is the medallion that the main character wears as a symbol of his quest to help him and protect him on his quest. And I think, wow, that to me is, again, it's another really important symbol of this.
Here's the thing. That is a good idea, but it's
all
not
three
fun.
Of these ideas.
Yes, I mean,
listen,
that goes without saying.
Make sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's never the question, would you not?
These are good.
It's never the question. All right, Brittany, do you got any?
I was going to say the medallion as well.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't remember what it was called. We know I never remember those things.
Brittany doesn't care about these details. She gets the gist.
They're not important.
That's right.
The other one, of course, I had to think of anything that was resemblant of crack. And I looked at that lime rock that he was eating. And I said, listen, lime rocks, the medallion or lime rocks, crack rock, same thing.
This is definitely going in the wrong direction.
Brittany, thank you so much for making the rock biter a crackhead. Thank you.
Listen, do you see how he was starving for it?
Oh, he was fiending. He was like,
he did talk kind of slow.
He was talking.
He did talk kind of slow. But I'm gonna have to go ahead and stop you again from trying to interject crack. It's
okay. Crack is whack, kids.
What was your third?
Really? Well, that was it, really. It was really the medallion. And I laughed at myself when I saw him eating the rock, because I was like, oh, I can.
He was loving that rock.
But it was always
he
the
was
medallion.
Loving it. He was loving it.
But and it could be the seven, what were they called? When he got to the second
the oracles.
They were hovering. What?
The oracles.
Thank you. The oracle.
Those statues,
those sphinxes that were the oracle.
They were gorgeous. I was like, listen, but we're not into that yet.
The most boobalicious sphinxes ever created. They were so unnecessarily
their nipples. I was like, what's happening here?
I was like, this was obviously.
Oh man, it's going to be so
created by a German man.
It's going to be so awesome to hear my 2020 sisters dissect this 1984 movie. I'm so excited.
Oh, really?
I can't believe.
Really? We can't even.
First of all, I was wrong.
Wait. There was one more.
Okay.
The white dog. Dragon.
First of all,
yes.
It's a luck dragon.
A luck dragon.
Did you not just walk away?
I had to get my power cord. I said it. My computer started dying.
It's what we do around here. It's real. It's raw and real. It's raw and real on the right perspective. It's raw and real.
My computer started. Good thing I had on pants today. Sometimes I don't have on pants.
We raw on the right perspective.
First of all, Brittany, you are correct. The proper symbol for this movie is the luck dragon. Now, it's very unfortunate that you couldn't remember luck dragon. I mean, it's not a very difficult concept.
Lug dragon, white rug dog, same thing.
Yeah, if it looked more dragony, maybe we wouldn't have such a problem.
If it breathes fire.
Yeah.
Listen,
If it didn't look like an animatronic, band member from Chuck E. Cheese lobby.
First of all, so what that it looks like an animatronic character from Chuck E. Cheese? It doesn't matter.
I'm a dragon.
Well,
That's not good. It's not
right, so
good. It was good.
That dog is not good.
I love that.
The luck dragon. The luck dragon is the first thing that anybody thinks about when they think about the NeverEnding Story, and so, but
okay,
and that goes back. That is it's hand in hand. However, I will say that logically, the
medallion.
Orin.
Not the Orin. Now Brittany got me messing it up. The Orin. The Orin is, because it's on the front of the book.
Yes.
So I could be on board with that too. If I'm downvoted 2-1 on the Orin. But I just knew you were both going to say Luck Dragon. Because like when you're like it's obvious, I'm like, yeah, you're right, it is obvious.
But that is because that was really gonna be my actual thing. I forgot about it when you said medallion, and I wanted to remember the crack rock.
Okay, so Britt,
I forgot about the dragon.
You be the deal breaker. Aubrey's vote is the Luck Dragon. My vote is the Orin. What Brittany Wright symbol will we use?
The Luck Dragon wrapped around the Orin.
See, this is why we can't give the youngest.
That's my fault.
The Luck Dragon.
That's my fault.
It's the Luck Dragon. It's the Luck Dragon.
That's my fault, bro.
It's the Luck Dragon.
Why I would give her so much power. It's like I learned nothing from this movie. Why would I give her all the power?
It's the Luck Dragon wrapped around the Orin, sitting on top of a lime rock. That is
on top
of the lime rock.
At
on
the
top
end,
of the castle.
At the end of this podcast discussion, we will each have one Luck Dragon to confer. And if this movie receives 3 Luck Dragons, then it will be deemed a classic from the Wright Perspective. All right. So let's kick off before we get into our discussion.
I need you to build what I said. I need you to build what I said as I say it whenever you do the edit.
Okay.
It's going to be ridiculous.
It is. That's going to be fun. It's going to be fun. Okay. And bro, I want to let you know, I don't know if you're going back and watching our videos, but every once in a while I am putting in the little visuals that we talk about. And I'm definitely going to do it this time.
All right.
Good stuff.
There's nothing Janiyah loves more than an activity.
Oh, I like an activity. And if it's crafty, count me in. Okay. So,
and if she gets a certificate at the end of it.
Now you're talking, sis. It's so funny because I was just working on my 2021 development plan and I was like, what certificates can I get?
This one is my fault. What
certificates can I get? So I've already identified a personal certificate program and a professional certificate program
I'm going
to complete in 2021.
I blame myself for getting you distracted. All right,
That's
back on top.
I'll report back on certificates. Okay, so let's go through a quick recap of the NeverEnding Story. And for those new to the Wright Perspective, we really do a recap. So spoilers are everywhere. They're down, they're everywhere, left, right. Okay, the movie came out.
And you didn't say it right.
You should have seen it by now. Okay, if you didn't, you're gonna get some spoilers right now. Okay, so at the top of the movie, we meet a sweet little boy named Bastian. That's again how you know it's a German movie. A sweet little boy named Bastian. And he's so adorable. And he's sad because his mother passed away recently. And immediately your heart is like broken for this kid. You can tell he's been using books to try to escape the sadness. His grades are dropping. He's not engaging in his extracurricular activities. And his dad is no help because he's like a workaholic. And he sits him down at the kitchen table like, son, it's time to stop daydreaming and start facing your problems. And then it's like, he's just a little boy and he's mourning. And then on top of that, he's getting bullied at school by mean children. And it is just too much.
They are some mean kids.
It's just too much. But you know what? He bucks up and he wants to make his father proud. He pulls it together. He's heading to school, minding his own business. He's full of resolve, only to be chased and put in a trash can by bullies. All he wanted to do was walk to school. Your heart is broken for this kid. He gets out of the trash can and they start chasing him again. And then he like ducks into a bookstore for cover. The bullies go running by the bookstore. And at this point, your heart is just broken for this kid. You're like, can this child please get a break? And he's in the bookstore. And then this mysterious bookstore owner basically is like shooing him away. Get out of here, kid. Kids nowadays don't do reading of top-notch books. I'm paraphrasing. And then Bastian is like, you got the wrong one this time. Again, I'm paraphrasing. You got the wrong one this time, bookkeeper, because I was about to say you turned
into a little sassy black child.
Yeah, I'm paraphrasing. And he's like, you got the wrong one this time, bookstore owner. And he starts listing out all of the many books that he has read. And he's trying to impress the bookstore owner. And the bookstore owner's like, okay. Maybe, and again, I'm paraphrasing, maybe you read, little boy, but you're just reading stories. You can't handle the book that I'm reading right now that's called The NeverEnding Story. You can't handle this book because you're just used to stories. Okay. And
I get a feel that this recap is about the same length as the movie so far.
It's not. And so I want people to feel what we felt, bro. That's what I'm trying to bring them in to the experience. I want them to feel the heartbreak of this little boy. Okay.
Listen.
And then to understand his state of mind. He takes the book. So the mysterious book owner, he like goads him. He's like, you can't read this book because it's too much for you. You can't handle it. And Bastian, of course, he takes the book and he runs away and he takes it with him to school. But by the time he gets to school, he's so late. He's missed his math test. So instead of going to class, he just goes up to the attic to start reading the book, the attic in the school. And the book, again, is The NeverEnding Story. That's the book. And of course, what we actually get to see is the book play out as he is reading it. And that's actually the bulk of the movie, is us watching the book be read and kind of brought to life in the little boy's imagination. The book is about a kingdom called Fantasia, and it's a fantasy land that's being threatened by the nothing, which is a dark emptiness that erases everything it touches. And the Empress of Fantasia, a child, is dying as the kingdom is being consumed. And all of the creatures, and I'm just using the word creatures because listen, they were just doing anything with these costumes.
Something was happening in there.
You had an elephant over here. You had a rock creature over here. Okay. Then over thither, you had a person with two faces. It was just any kind of character they wanted to come up with, hodgepodge in the fantasy land. But all of the creatures, they're frightened, and they call upon the greatest warrior in the kingdom, Atreyu, who's also a child. It's like a little 9 or 10-year-old little boy. They call the greatest warrior, and his quest is to go and find out how to defeat the nothing. And of course, he bravely accepts the quest, and he takes that token from the Empress we talked about called Warren.
his quest was to find a cure for the childlike princess. That was his quest.
Thank you, bro.
I'm sorry. I felt like that was very important.
Thank you, bro. And he is about this quest.
I don't think
y'all.
she really thanks me.
I do. Really I do. Oh my gosh, my gratitude is so sincere. And he is so committed to this quest. Oh, I love accuracy. And so he is so committed to this quest. And by the time the quest is all said and done, he has traveled thousands and thousands of miles. He's traveled on horse, and his horse ultimately dies on the journey. He travels by foot. He travels by dragon. You know, he sought counsel from and gotten help from all kinds of mystical creatures and oracles. He's completed all kinds of physical and moral tests. And he's even being hunted and chased down by an evil wolf-like agent of the nothing called a Gmork. And after all of this, Atreyu finds out that he actually can't save the Empress. He can't save Fantasia. And in fact, his whole role in all of this was just to get the attention of a human child. And it is a specific human child. And you guessed it, it's Bastian, the one that's reading the book. And as the viewer, you get to watch Bastian realize that he's the human child they're talking about in the book. And he's like, no, my imagination is running away with me. I can't get all caught up in this. My father told me to keep my 2 feet on the ground. But eventually it's undeniable. Bastian, you have to save Fantasia. But you're probably wondering, if you haven't seen the movie, you're wondering why? Why do they need the human child to save Fantasia? Well, that's a good question. Fantasia is the world of human fantasy. Every part of it, every creature is a piece of the dreams and hopes of mankind. And it's actually dying because people have begun to lose their hopes and forgotten their dreams. And so
Fantasia did now.
The nothing.
Fantasia did in 2021.
Listen.
The nothing is growing stronger. And then there's a point where Atreyu confronts the agent of the nothing. And he asks, why? Why would you help the nothing consume Fantasia? And the agent says, I have been trying to help it because people that have no hope are easy to control. And whoever has the control has the power. I said,
movie is deep.
Say something there. And so eventually we learn that the only way that Bastian can save Fantasia is to give the Empress a new name. He names her Moonchild after his mother. But by the time he does it, Fantasia is basically gone. It's basically been consumed. There are bits of it floating around in a void, but it's basically gone. The Empress does survive, and she gives Bastian a single grain of sand and tells Bastian that he has the power to bring Fantasia back with his imagination, with his mind, with his imagination. And of course, he does. And he restores Fantasia back to its original glory. And the movie ends with him flying around on the dragon that was Atreyu's dragon.
It's a luck dragon.
With the luck dragon.
He does not belong to Atreyu.
He's flying around. But the point is, he's using his imagination quite actively and is therefore saving Fantasia. The end. Or is it? Because it's a never-ending story. Bam. Recap complete.
It's a never-ending story.
That's right.
And there's a sequel. So if we ever do a
Bro, there's a sequel?
Yeah, if we ever do
you didn't tell us.
We should have done the sequel at the same time.
What is the name of the sequel? The story kept going?
Story 2.
Oh, a little bit more of the never-ending story.
But
Gotcha again.
It's probably one of the top 10 worst movies of all time. But so yeah, I mean, this is why I think I think most people act like it doesn't exist.
Oh, bro, you were very strategic with that. Very strategic, bro.
No, because I watched it. I'll watch
Okay,
it
sis, we
afterwards.
gotta
But
watch it. We're gonna have to watch it, and
but
maybe
yeah,
we can
it's
report back
but
in
yeah,
the comments.
you'll see.
I feel like
you'll see
the
what I
theme
said.
song is, "Ooh, this is where it ended."
Well, that's the
Okay,
recap.
listen,
and bro,
listen.
you nominated this movie, so I think you've got to kick off our discussion here.
Well, first of all, I think it's very important that we discuss that The Grain of Sand was the last piece of Fantasia.
That's right.
It's very important. And how did you not
Except
talk?
that they were inside a castle that was also in Fantasia. So
No. At the end, they were just floating in the void.
no, they were in the ivory tower because they flew to it. They remember he was like, the ivory tower is saved. Am I confusing it? Okay.
Are you going to challenge me?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not, bro. I'm not.
Challenge him. Challenge him. Challenge him.
Brittany, stop starting confusion.
Listen. Listen. Atreyu.
You're
and,
right.
Atreyu and
okay.
and the luck dragon found it, but that was still
before
the final destruction. So like at the end, after he screamed out the name, that's when it was just him and her.
That's
like,
why it was only the sound. I got it.
And that was why she was like, "This is the solo." And you didn't talk about Atreyu killing the Gamorrean.
I felt it was implied. He kind of, I said he kind of. No, that need to be
implied.
Out. Okay,
that was one of the most awesome moments.
All right,
it was awesome. But I will say this: I think I am going to stop watching movies, and I'm just going to watch Genia recap movies. So instead of me going to the movie, I just want to watch Genia talk about the movie after she's seen it, and I think I'll get a much more dramatic experience that way. But yeah, so anyway,
I can't believe I left out the killing of the Gamorrean if that was important. I just felt like, oh, he killed the animatronic wolf.
Don't do this. Don't do that. And he stabbed him in the heart.
Okay, you know what? I guess what this really is.
In the hieroglyphic area.
This movie came out in 1984. And I think that, because obviously in 1984, I was 6. Genia, you were 3. Brittany, you were not born
alive
as of yet.
I was born in 1985.
The movie came out in 1984, sis.
Oh, I thought he said it came out in 1986.
It did not.
And you said it with a lot of confidence.
Like,
you were very,
I'm just using the movie to imagine.
But what I'm saying is that this movie was a big part of growing up there were 2 like fantasy movies. It was The NeverEnding Story and it was The Flight of the Navigator. And like those both were out at the same time. And they were movies that like teachers would put in, if it was like a substitute or something like that. So like those movies I really, really grew up with. And I think obviously the reason why I wanted to talk about it just because I think it's an awesome movie, but I also just wanted to do something fun. And the thing that I love about The NeverEnding Story is just a fun movie. It's just it's a fun movie, but it also deals with some really deep themes when you're thinking about it. And it's a movie that you could just watch it at face value, and it's enjoyable for a child. But then if you start picking through, I mean, I've never done it, but I'm sure there's like, it probably goes way deeper than I've ever even considered. You know what I mean?
It's one of those kinds of movies that has the kind of cult following that gives it a presence in current day at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
That's how much that this movie has persisted in terms of there being a culture around it. So I know there's a ton of analysis out there, bro. Gotta be.
I mean, it has
Gotta
to
be.
It has to be. But just, just even watching it again, it really just brought back the feelings because, I mean, it's just heavy stuff going on nowadays. And even now when we're talking about movies are very, they have very obvious messages, and so and it's fine, and everything. But back then it was different. Well, with this movie it was different. It was like, yes, we can analyze it like we're talking about, but at face value, this was just a movie about a boy going on a quest. You know what I'm saying? And that's what. So that's why I suggested. I thought it was just a very feel good movie that would still leave us some room to be able to maybe discuss a couple of topics that weren't so surface. But yeah. Well, so that's why.
Bro, and I hear you on the feel good piece. I do, and I when I was watching it, I was trying to watch it as like, what would a child think watching this?
Yeah, I mean, and when I got a little sidetracked, but the point I was getting to was, I think that is part of my enjoyment though, because like when I look at the Luck Dragon or when I look at these, I still get the feeling. I get reminiscent. I have feelings reminiscent of when I first saw it, and I think that if I was just now seeing it for the first time, it might not have connected. I still would have enjoyed it, but I think I would be a lot more like y'all, like this big, obviously, and it does look just like a Chuck E. Cheese animatronic.
It does.
So I'm just saying, I feel.
It
I
looks
feel
like
what you're
one
saying.
of those like the Chinese holiday dragon.
Yes,
it kind of is similar to that.
And
Atreyu.
But
I love that thing.
Here's how I justified that to myself, and I'm sure maybe I'm right on this. Like, why would the dragon look like a dog? And I think part of it might have been a reflection of Bastian's experience. So Bastian, he's never seen, because like right now, if you ask kids what a dragon looks like, current day children know, because dragon imagery is everywhere. It's very easy to come across dragon imagery. It's everywhere, and we see it all the time. It's even in like, there are childlike versions of dragons and dinosaurs. And so I just convinced myself that Bastian didn't have some image of a dragon that had already been projected into his brain, because he had been reading intense books, not picture books. And so I thought perhaps he was just drawing from what he knew, and he knew a dog. He knew what a dog looked like. And so he was taking the attributes of a dragon as they were described in the book: flying, long, scaly, and he had put the dog face on it.
That's very deep, and I'm actually willing to go with you down that road. But I would assume that the description of Falkor would have been in the book. Mm-hmm. Like, because anytime you're reading any of those fantasy books that you think about what he's talking about, like I read Lord of the Rings and I read all these, they're very detailed is the whole point.
Got
so
it.
Detailed.
So it probably would have said with the face of a dog or something.
Yeah, it would have got, like, if you read some of those books, they'll take 10 minutes to describe a table. You know what I mean? Like, right. Let alone something that is actually but and don't get me wrong, I don't read fantasy books, but I watch tons of YouTube clips that align what was written in the book next to how they
brought it to life. Yeah.
And
that's
I'm
a
just
good
saying,
point, bro.
Those descriptions get really, really in detail.
Yeah, because they aren't written with the movie in mind.
That's why those books are 400 and 500 pages. They're like so detailed. They're so detailed.
Man,
That's never been my
are
ministry, but they are detailed.
there are books to describe the books.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's books to describe the book. So in my mind, I look at the show as they were just subverting expectations. It's like, no, what you're going to see in this world, you haven't seen anywhere.
Got that right. They did a good job of checking that box. Ain't seen it since neither. That's
what I'm saying.
And you know what? I feel like a parallel about what you're describing is kind of how for my generation Harry Potter was.
Yes,
Harry Potter was like
very similar.
I was never a Harry Potter person. I'm not like fantasy, sci-fi, but I do remember when Harry Potter came out, and it was. And you grew up with it. It was and grew up with it. It was storming that day, but the line was still out the door. Everyone was waiting to purchase that book. Like it was a bad storm, like a flood, and people were still waiting for that book to purchase it.
Yeah.
So these things they come and they define moments. Mm-hmm. They truly define moments.
Mm-hmm. You know, Britt, it's funny. Well, what did you think of Britt? What did you think of the movies, the plot and the direction, like the just the premise itself? How did you feel about it? The themes and just the general vision of the film.
You know what? Children's programming always kind of catches me off guard when it's so in depth, like when it's so deep, and you guys start going like, "Oh, that's good." And so when it started off that his mother had passed away, I said, "Oh, we're going in." And to see and to see basically this father and son trying to exist in a world where the mother was no more. Mm-hmm. And mm-hmm. the father's charging the son in a way to be older than what he actually was, wanting him really to let the nothing, right, to overtake him, because it was like, we have to learn to move forward and move past this.
Focus on reality.
Get out of exactly.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Buck you up, have this father telling this little boy, like, you didn't even go out for swimming. You didn't do these different things. Like, really just like he's talking to someone a little older than a little elementary school boy. And just watching the father like blending his protein shake, just these little things that are showing, he's in a suit, just the elements, and this little boy almost kind of being wise, but really shy and quiet.
Yeah.
So just that night, it was a small scene, but it was so pivotal because it was setting the scene for who this little boy was. And anytime I see children with a briefcase going to school, it cracks me up.
A satchel.
I was like, he doesn't have a book. It was a satchel. I said, he doesn't have a book bag. and then they got the 3 worst kids to be a bully. When they put him in that trash can, I was like, really? They're just gonna put this baby in the trash can. So at any rate, I just really enjoy that they got into those topics, because I think that's something as adults we don't do. We don't use our imagination. And so it's hard for us to do something which is important, which is manifest. If you're not able to use your imagination, you can't hope. You can't manifest. If you're not able to see things that aren't there, how can you continue to move forward and to go forward and to say, I believe that these things can happen. I know there are so many inventions that we have. If anyone would have said, one day someone's going to be in New York, someone's going to be in Georgia, and someone's going to be in Pennsylvania, and they'll all be able to see each other, it would have been like, okay, whatever. That literally is never going to happen. Yeah. And here we are, and this is just simple every day. So you have to have imagination. You have to have it. So I did appreciate that. And I just appreciated how it didn't have a name. It was the nothing. It was just coming and taking over.
Yeah.
The nothing. I thought that was really, really, really creative. How they did that.
You know what? I gotta tell y'all, I'll be honest. I found myself through the entire movie convincing myself that I liked the movie. I had to keep talking myself into it. So I would find myself rolling my eyes at the dog dragon. And then I'd have to say, Janiyah, listen, girlfriend, this is a movie from the 80s. Okay. Maybe all they had was Chuck E. Cheese characters in the back lot that they had to repurpose. I don't know. Like I had to keep convincing myself. And it's so funny because
that's a good question.
I'm
thinking about how much was the movie?
I kept trying to think about who was the target demographic for this movie when it came out. That's what I was trying to think about. Because like when you think about Harry Potter is one of those things, like that whole universe, I think from a marketing perspective, is probably targeted at tweens, but it has universal appeal. And I think of a lot of, then I started thinking about like The Lion King that came out for us in the 90s. That was probably targeted at, same thing, probably was targeted at tweens, but had a universal appeal because it was for families. I was watching this movie like, who is this for? And I just thought maybe it's elementary school children that would have appreciated it, because I just couldn't see this being something that adults would want to watch with their children. And I couldn't see it being something, and listen, I can watch an 80s movie and be in it. But I couldn't, so I don't think it was the agedness of the technology and the imagery. I don't think that's what it was. I think it was the allegory itself, just that story of like, imagination is important or we perish. Like, I was just like, who is this movie for? So I gotta tell y'all, I struggled with it. I was watching it and I texted Brittany and Aubrey at some point, like, I feel like, I can't remember what I said, but I was like, I feel like I'm Aubrey watching a romantic comedy right now. Because I was struggling. I had to keep taking breaks.
On the struggle bus.
I had to keep taking breaks, and like my mind would drift. I had to refocus. So I
have to tell you, this movie cost $27 million to make in 1984.
Oh my God.
That is crazy. And it made $100 million at the box office. That is bananas. 27 million in 1984. Whoa. That's crazy. Gas wasn't even $1 yet.
Wow. Wow.
Well, I think that I'm putting myself back in the mindset. But I think that regardless, it does speak to whether or not the movie is a classic from your perspective, because you would think that the whole point is this classics hold up, even if you're seeing them for the first time. But I will say that for me, I really enjoyed the plot because it came from a time where, I love complex plots. I love watching complex plots that are on television now. The first, I'll say 5 seasons of Game of Thrones, for example, where it's like, you got to be like, even with a notepad, like, okay, I gotta remember who everybody is, because if not,
you gotta connect season 6 with season 1.
Yes, you gotta do that. And the thing I like about movies from back then is that they will bring out, like, okay, you have a little boy, he's reading a story. What's the problem in the story? The princess is dying. The nothing is taking over Fantasia. 2 problems need fixing. Okay, so how are we fixing these problems? He needs to go on a quest to find the cure. And guess what he does? Goes on a quest to find the cure. And like in this quest, it's like you can
you don't have to figure any of it out. Like at the end, the Gamork, he actually has a Q&A with the agent of the nothing, with the Gamork, where he says, "What is the nothing?" And then the Gamork says what it is. why is it eating Fantasia? And then the Mort answers the question, what can we do about it? And then the Mort tells them. And I think that's what I was like,
and the thing
made
is,
for TV. Like, I didn't feel like it was for the big screen.
And even that
special feel. That's so true.
That's it, sis. That's it. I was the entire time I was like, was this on the big screen? It felt like a made for TV
and it made
movie that forced a moral proposition onto you. I think movies that have a moral, proposition, but they just allow you to draw the conclusion. That's what I think of as like the tween movie, the way that you create that universal movie. That universal family lasting movie, it doesn't have to be explicit about the moral because it teaches you. And this one, to me, it was there was something about it that was so cliche in the way that they did it from my perspective, that it felt like a made for TV movie. And you're right. It felt like an after school special.
The interesting thing is as much as I feel exactly what both of you are saying, it's just interesting how it just doesn't evoke that for me. Wow. But I still understand what you're saying. It didn't evoke that for me.
It didn't evoke that for me, but I could see where Genia is coming from.
Sure.
Because I was into it. I was really into it. I was like, what? Oh, It did what? Yeah, I was
get out of here, nothing. Yeah, you were
in Fantasia. and so
it was like, why would they call it nothing? Call it, give it a name. I don't know. I was just like, really?
But see, that's the thing. It was the nothing. Because nothing is doing what? Taking over something.
I'm just saying, I remember.
But there was stuff in there that was not explicit. That they were was the imagination.
I don't want to say it was fully shallow. I'm not saying that at all.
I was about to say because I was thinking of how in life, how hard and treacherous things can be before you get to something great. There's something great on the other end. And I was thinking of how when they were going through, it was like the swamp of sadness or something.
Exactly.
It was like, and if you let it take you over, you'll sink. And I was like, I said, that is something that is really deep. Now to think about it, Sebastian, wait, what was his name?
Atreyu?
Bastian.
Oh, Bastian.
Bastian. He was sad. His mom was gone. His mom is gone. And it's like, this book is telling him, listen, if you let that take you over, you're going to sink. You cannot you have to move forward. You have to keep going. You have to continue to push. I don't know if that was on purpose.
It was obviously on purpose. No, because it was called the Swamp of Sadness. That's my point. It's like, why is it called the Swamp of Sadness? And it's like,
listen,
everybody knows when you're in the swamp. Yeah, that's my thing. It's like after school special for elementary school age children. If I think of it like that, I'm like, well done, movie. Well done.
Want to know, Genia is such a hater right now on this movie, but her programming, her level of programming is Disney and Nickelodeon. Do not let her fool you.
But let
her fool you.
But that's why I had such a high expectation of enjoying this movie, and that's why I kept trying to do the work to somehow be more present or experience it differently in a way that would let me enjoy it, because it just seems like the kind of movie I would love.
You didn't enjoy the tortoise?
So there were moments. I didn't enjoy the tortoise.
Was hilarious.
So there were
he was allergic to Atreyu.
So for those who haven't seen the movie, Atreyu is heading to a mountain to find a certain mystical figure that has information, he believes has information he needs. He gets to that mountain, and it turns out the mountain is the mystical character he's looking for. And the mountain is a big turtle, and the turtle slowly rises up from the muck. And the turtle talks really slowly because it hasn't talked to anyone in 1,000 years. It's allergic to youth. And so it keeps sneezing at Atreyu. I was like, what's happening here?
It was
maybe I'm having a tough week. I don't know, y'all. I'm like, what?
No.
Like,
Everything you're saying. Listen, everything you're saying. Everything you're saying.
Why is he sneezing? I was like,
everything you're saying is valid.
There were moments. So I'll throw out one moment where I was like, this is the kind of thing that to me I was expecting. There was a moment where the very first explanation of the nothing that we got was from the rock biter that Brittany was calling a crackhead. He cracked limestone rocks. But the rock biter, he's explaining. He's like, my village is being overtaken by something. And people are trying to get him, not people, but the creatures are trying to get him to describe it. And he's like, it just is consuming everything. And then they're asking him, is it like consuming things and creating a whole? And he says, no, a whole would be something. It's just consuming it. And then there's nothing left. You know, so there were moments where I was like, now we've got some
like
writing.
Gentrification to me.
Right. But then for the most part, it was like, I'm in the swamp of sadness. And if I'm sad, I sink. I was like, come on now.
Sounds like oppression.
We got to do better. Well, but what about the characters and the acting? Let's transition to the characters and the acting, because I have a very different kind of feedback on that, because I felt those kids killed it dead. The entire cast of children killed that movie.
Now this is funny, because this is the one part that Bastian got on my last nerve. And it was just so interesting, so because I can still remember his lines, because you know, I've seen it so many times. And yes, it was a child's movie, but I'm gonna tell you, watching Artex die was traumatic. That's
the horse.
And so what I'm saying is that it is definitely on one level, at least, just a very simplistic, straightforward movie, which again, to me, is a positive, especially right now. But everybody did well, I felt like, acting, but Bastian was just working my nerves, man. Like he was just so.
I thought he was adorable.
Like
he
a Atreyu.
He was like, no, I can't use my imagination. My dad told me to keep my 2 feet on the ground. I was Bastian.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
he was
all of that
battle
was just like, who says that?
I know.
But then you put it against Atreyu, and there were moments like when he was losing his horse, like that, he stuck that landing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And
yeah, he did.
And even where there was no dialogue, like when he was walking through the oracles, and you could just see his mental process of going through it, and just that moment where he's like, you know what, forget it, I'm going for it. You know what I'm saying? He just ran. And so I will agree with you, except for
Bastian.
Bastian was
the only time that my brain was like, I had to shut my reality brain off, was when I was like, this little boy is in the attic all day at school. The bell rings. He's still up in the attic at nighttime. His daddy is not looking for him. In a storm. I said, his daddy is not looking for him. We don't see any of that.
They never resolved that.
They never resolved that. That's always bothered me.
It bothered me too.
Because it was dark.
I was just like, hold on.
It was dark at night. And the other thing is,
and I'm like, there's no janitors cleaning up the school. Don't hear this little boy.
If you're reading this book, and you realize at the end, because once Bastian makes the realization that they're actually talking about me, and then to save the princess, basically he has to give her a name, just like Janai talked about. Just like I guess that was the way of connecting that his imagination believed in this. But one thing that's always bothered me is back then, like, why do you have to scream it out the window? Like, and because I didn't even know what he said until years later when I could look it up on the internet.
Yeah.
Because the whole It was very
so
just
much going on.
And to me, I didn't understand. Like it was just such a like I didn't feel like that moment had to be like that. You know what I mean? Like I felt like it could have been different. So outside of Bastion and the bullies.
But bro, can I just tell you what I convinced myself of in that moment? I convinced myself that the storm was in Bastion's imagination. And so I don't think that I don't think that the school's attic window actually got blown in. I don't think, y'all, I was putting in some work. I was like, this can't be bad.
Listen, far with that one. Like she was working.
But I think he was in his imagination. He was like, because in his imagination, he was getting swept up in the nothing overtaking them. And so I felt that maybe it was actually raining outside of the school, but the window blowing in and things falling and breaking. And I thought maybe he imagined all of that. So maybe he didn't actually go to the window. This was him like in his imagination engaging.
I don't know. But I'm not going to argue with you.
I was doing that the whole movie.
But even when he was eating a sandwich and he was like,
he took a bite.
Let me tell you something.
He was like, no, not too much.
We've
got a long way.
I was
like, who is
you know, when my mind went,
like that?
He was laying on some nasty, dirty stuff. He pulled out that old little mat, all dusty and nasty, and put his sandwich on it. I said, ugh. That's the type of stuff I was
that's one part I could believe because
children are gross.
Children are gross.
I think that's very factually
I will tell you
supported.
this, Atreyu, I appreciated how they kept him real. Even though he was like a kid, they kept him as a real kid. Like when he got to those oracles and they said the name needs to change, he was like, that's it? Y'all had me go through all this. He was mad.
He was like a human child. How do I get to the human child? Listen, that
actor, he nailed that scene too. I think
every single scene.
And I'm gonna tell you, and I'm gonna tell you the other scene that I love is when he's about to fight the Gmort and he picks up that rock. He's like, come on, I'm down on my feet. I'm like, yeah, even now, he still gets me. He still gets me even now.
He picks it up because Mork says something like, and now you were the only one that could have stopped it. And now I'm going to get you, Atreyu. And Atreyu picks up his little dagger.
He said,
I'd
you looking like
go down fighting.
A buffalo to me right now.
He said, I'd rather go down fighting. And he
That's right.
And listen, and Atreyu, and even in the beginning when Atreyu first got there, and the black man with the white hair, don't know his name, he was like, no, we're looking for Atreyu the adult. Like, and Atreyu was like,
the warrior
I'm the warrior. Atreyu was like, well, okay, bye. Like, Atreyu, I was like, this little boy's a little thug.
He was.
And you know, we cannot.
Well, the kids were the ones with the power mostly. You know?
And that Atreyu actor,
if we did not.
I was going to say the Atreyu actor. If you think about the actual script, most of the dialogue was Atreyu. Other people talked. Bastion talked a little bit, but if you really think about it, that was how much like pages of language did Atreyu, that actor, have to memorize, and then he interpreted it so well. He was such a gangsta, little non-muscle having, skinny little 10-year-old little boy marching through the forest of sadness. Like he killed that part.
I mean, he was going to. He was fearless, but we have to not miss I guess they were gnomes or trolls or the little couple.
Oh yeah.
They were hilarious.
Yeah, they were funny.
Just to get the actors. Noah Hathaway was Atreyu, and Barret Oliver played Bastion.
Okay. That little couple was so funny to me. This little, like, they were the perfect, we've been married for 1,000,000 years. and
They
we
were
talk
so
to each other
funny.
reckless, but we love each other so much.
Yes.
Even when she got up on the dragon and gave him some like vitamin C or something, I was like, who is thinking of these things that this woman is like doing these things? And so I just thought that was such creative
funny.
characters.
They did a great
that they
job.
had them in.
And I
liked
have
them.
those actors' names. The woman, the character, her name was Urgle, and she was a healer. And the actress is Patricia Hayes. And the husband that was a scientist who had been observing the oracles for hundreds of years,
Yes.
his name was Ingewook. And the actor was Sidney Bromley.
He said, "You haven't heard of me?"
They did a great job.
They were
in the
reminiscent.
science world.
They were reminiscent of the couple in Princess Bride.
Yes, they were. Yes, they
Yeah.
were. I love that little trope of a couple like that. I always find it adorable.
Yeah, it's
And
funny.
there's
I've never
another
seen
child.
The Princess Bride.
Oh, we got to put that on our list, sis. That's definitely one of those ones.
Right now, I'm like, I don't. Aubrey, come back.
Aubrey just left a minute because he's disgusted. Oh, sis. I have seen The Princess Bride 25 times.
I don't know what that
It
is.
used to just come on. It still comes on television. It's just on.
I don't even.
It's on.
And you are going
Oh,
to love
it's on all the
that
time.
movie. You're gonna love that movie. I just can't.
The Princess Bride.
Okay, I'm putting it on the list, y'all. I'm literally typing it onto the list. I wanted. There's one other.
I'm disgusted by you for not having seen it, but I'm also jealous of you
it, sis.
because you're gonna love it. Like
I would
wish
bet money on that.
I was going.
I'd
I
bet
would
money.
bet money as well.
Yeah.
Would bet money as well.
I bet money Britt's gonna love
Like
it.
I think you're gonna be really into it. While you're...
I just Googled it and I'm looking like I don't recognize it.
Oh, Britt, it's funny. But I wanted to, before we stop talking about the actors, I wanted to talk about the Empress. Okay. Because in my intrigue about her, I came across something that I think is really interesting. So when she was talking, it looked to me like she was working so hard to talk. And I was like, is she maybe a native German speaker? That's what I was thinking. And then they were trying really hard to get her to speak English because I just felt like she was working too hard to pronounce her words. And so I was like, what if all these people are speaking German or native German speakers that learned English for the movie? And I came across a couple of interesting facts, y'all. I Googled specifically about the princess. And guess what? She was 11 years old when they were filming, and her 2 front teeth fell out while they were filming. And so the actress Tami Stronach, and so she lost her 2 front teeth in the course of the movie. And because they didn't want the character to be missing, obviously to be a snaggletooth, as we called it when we were little, she was fitted with false teeth. And that false
is hilarious.
It caused her to speak with a lisp. And it took a considerable amount of time and diction training for her to overcome the lisp of the fake teeth.
Wow.
Isn't that
I
interesting?
took for granted that I thought she was sick. I thought about her being sick, how they had described her. I didn't even think about that. That's a good catch.
Isn't that interesting?
It's like in Fantasia, I think I wrote up a lot of stuff, just the weirdness in general. Like this is just a weird world.
Yes.
So, but what also is interesting about her is that she didn't really do anything after that. And like she's done some stuff. I think she's been in a total of like 6 things. But like it was like
she became a
20,
dancer.
30. Yeah, she's a dancer.
She became a dancer.
And
had a dance studio and stuff.
Yeah. And it's just interesting because years ago when I was rewatching it at some point, it just made me think because I feel like she did, even though the bulk of the movie was largely about her, but she doesn't show up until the last.
That's right.
Until the end. And then and she just has a few lines, but she's such an impactful character in terms of pop culture. And I know it's just so interesting when a person comes in and does one movie and they're just, and it's like this huge thing, but they don't really end up going down that path. It's just.
But it's almost one of those things like, how can you top it? It's like, I've become this person, and how can I, what will be the next thing? Because when people see me, this is what they see. I think so many characters, I was stars, find that to be a challenge, and very few are able to redefine themselves. Very few are able to step out and be something that they weren't at first, or to take you away from that character. And not saying that they're not skilled, but sometimes just the industry, I don't believe it even allows the room. Because why? Listen, Bruce Willis, you're always going to be this type of character, no matter what you're doing. Even if it's a family movie, you're like this. You know what I mean? Like, you are, you're typecasted is the word I'm looking for. Or a pirate, either one. And so
I don't think of Bruce Willis as being typecasted, but I know what you mean. I mean. So I will tell y'all,
I think that could probably be it.
Tami Stronach, and again, all this because I thought she was talking funny. I found all these other little facts. She as we said, she leaned into dancing. And she was like a choreographer and a dancer, and she had her own dance studio. I think she still does. Mm-hmm. But Brittany, to your point about like people letting things go, moving on, she has right now a yoga practice called NeverEnding Yoga. And if you go on her current actual website, she has a link to sell NeverEnding Story merch. And how did I even find her website? It's because, again, looking her up, I saw one of her interviews at a recent Comic-Con. And so she's still living in that 10 minutes of that movie to this day is a part of how she's showing up professionally.
I would be curious to see if she did none of that and then started doing it.
Right.
Like in 2010 or something. I'll be curious. But yeah, it's definitely, but even in her, like you said, her 10 minutes.
She did a great job. And can I share one more random fact that I found, y'all?
Them edges was laid, honey. She had no pieces of hair. That was some good gel. There wasn't no hair messed up on that head.
No, that hair was laid down mystically.
Listen, it was laid down.
Okay, this is the piece that y'all going to be like, So it turns out that some of the dialogue was filmed in German and then dubbed. Because much of the filming took place in Germany, a lot of the and this is from the website screenrant.com. Because much of the filming took place in Germany, a lot of the actors brought onto the production were German. This doesn't mean they couldn't speak English, but as it happens, a lot of the actors' dialogue was spoken in German and then dubbed over in English in post-production. The actor who played the Nighthawk, Thilo Bruckner, spoke most of his dialogue in German and had it dubbed over. And the same is true for the Rockbiter, which can be seen pretty clearly if you go back and watch their lips as they speak. Anyway, so it goes on.
Makes sense.
But it's like...
That makes sense.
What you were talking about,
I thought
Aubrey,
it was that crack that rock.
There were things that we were looking at as like weirdness of the movie, but no, it's like, that was dubbing. Just, I don't know, y'all.
So I mean, I think that spills off into the, just because, you know, I remember feeling like the movie looked amazing. In
the
80s.
Cinematography and the sound of the music. Yeah.
So, and that song is iconic. Did you guys watch?
So simple.
Iconic.
I love it.
Did you guys watch Stranger Things?
No.
Okay, well, if you ever watch it.
I watched a Stranger Things clip that was referencing the NeverEnding Story. All of this because I was looking up the Empress. I went down a hole.
But the point is that the way that movie, because the movie takes place, I mean, Stranger Things takes place in that time frame of the late 80s, and so you get to see a snippet of how that movie was in the culture at the time through that, because they make a big reference to the movie in the show. So I think that, like, obviously now, I mean, it's obviously stop motion and, animatronics and all that, but I still enjoy the visuals of it. And I still enjoy the visuals of, and as a matter of fact, the only part that bothers me is Falcor. The Luck Dragon was not well done.
That's the piece.
But it was okay for 84. But
bro, what made it not okay? I'm sorry, go ahead.
But I'm just saying the rest of it though, like the rock biter and the dude with the bat and the
racing snail.
The racing snail.
Right.
And when they walked into the palace, I liked all the different characters, like the one that looks just like a big head, and just all that looked like a very fantastical world where they just took away, like, look, no, just make stuff up. Let's just go crazy.
Do anything.
You know what? I wonder if they had some kids do some drawings and then just
maybe.
And then make the characters based off of children's drawings.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, make whatever you want. Just go ahead, make us a character.
But because there were so many characters that were so well done, that's what made the dragon look bad. How could you have that amazing rock biter? That rock biter visually would be interesting in a movie today.
Yeah.
And then all those little characters, like you said, bro, the guy on the snail, even the turtle, I thought was better done than the dragon. And I just thought, funny that really the Luck Dragon, the dragon was so important to me for it to look not well done when there were, and it would be something different if all of the fantastical characters were poorly done, but they weren't. A lot of them would hold up now, but the dragon just looked really bad.
Yeah.
I could, but you know what? It's funny though, because I don't know why I just didn't pay attention to that. And I think more so because I put myself that it was in 84.
Sure.
And so I said to myself, I'm not expecting what's the show that we was watching? I only watched 5 seasons of it.
The Wire.
What's the name? You named it earlier.
The Wire.
The sci-fi show. We named it earlier. I can't think of 5 it with the dragons.
Game of Thrones.
Thank you, Game of Thrones.
A sci-fi.
I'm like, I cannot remember the name of this movie
Game of Thrones
this show
right
now. It's not, I don't even know what it is. Fantasy.
It doesn't matter. Little sci-fi.
It's crazy is what it is.
Fantastic.
And so that's crazy. The crazy show.
There's no science fiction.
Once you have dragons and people being able to.
What is that? Oh, is it called fantasy? What is it called?
It's definitely science fiction.
Oh, okay.
I would
100%
bet money that
how much would you like to bet?
$37.
No, there might be some wrong people. Listen, science fiction is Star Trek.
There are
Star
dragons,
Wars.
bro.
Oh.
Fantasy is Lord of the Rings. Game
you
of
know
Thrones.
what? Honestly, bro, I've been making them synonymous. When I say fantasy and science fiction, and that lets you know how much I don't know about this type of stuff. Because I'm like, oh yeah, magic, dragons, and
science fiction is
me up, Scotty. Same thing. It's not.
It's
No,
technology.
beam me up, Scotty. That is science. That is
Because
science
it's
fiction.
technology.
No, I mean dragons and Beam Me Up Scotty are separate.
Yeah.
So that in my mind, I was like, I am not going to get the dragons that I see on Game of Thrones.
No, you ain't
in
gonna get no
84.
dragon.
You knew
Right.
You ain't
that.
gonna get no
These
dragon.
giant things
We
that
knew
look
that.
like they're really on the side of a mountain. Like if I went to travel to Ireland, I would see this dragon, right? Like I'm not going to, my mind was like, when I watched it, I said, they did this in 84? I was like, wow.
The dragon looked like a toilet paper roll with a stuffed animal taped on the end.
First of all,
I was
you
just
will
like,
not do his glitter back like that, okay? This glitter back that he had, you were not going to do his glitter back. Look like little pieces of corn. You're not going to do him like that.
Let me tell you.
But I was
one thing
thinking, when it's sitting there laid out, I was like, did they build this character? Like, was it a float?
No.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, did they have an actual life size?
They budgeted.
They
allocated. They spent too much on the rock biter. They needed to leave more funding for the dragon.
I'll tell you what though. I would love to see somebody redo NeverEnding Story if they didn't change the plot. If they just did it.
Yeah.
But just really went, because I wouldn't be going there for plot. I would be going there to see how they could portray this.
That's right.
2021 versus then, because it would be amazing if they really, it would be worth going to see just to see how they would redo it all. Just in terms of top notch. That would be very interesting to watch. So I mean, I guess it's time.
I think you're right. I think we've hit all the categories.
I guess it's time. And I this is one where I don't know where the vote's going to go.
Yeah, so and I normally most of the times I have clarity. There's only been a few times where I've been on the fence. This is definitely one where coming into the recording, I hadn't made a decision.
Yeah, so I would say that I'm still going to say it's a classic. I'm still going to give it my Falcor, but I do at the same time understand what Janiyah is saying. So that's my I don't feel like, I feel like all the points Janiyah made were valid, but I think that as far as this movie goes, Brittany and I were able to detach ourselves a little easier than you in this one. And that speaks to whether or not it's a classic. So I'm gonna call it a classic, but you know.
So bro, it's going to get your luck dragon.
Yes, I'm saying yes, I'm giving it my luck dragon. I'm still calling it a classic, but I understand what you're saying. Like, I don't feel like you're tripping.
Yeah.
Based on what you...
And I have to say, you know, for those who are new to this podcast, and look, I don't struggle to go to Fantasyland. I really don't. That's what y'all have to know. I don't struggle with that. And I really, but this movie, I just couldn't do it. This is exactly the kind of movie that I would love. You've got little characters running to and fro. Come on, that's good stuff. But the whole time, I was just like, what is happening here? Why is this called The Woods of Sadness? It was just so like, to me, what the reason I cannot give it my luck dragon is that it to me does not, it just doesn't hold up. And when I say hold up, I think that a movie that is a classic can be watched in any decade and by anybody. And you're able to forgive it for the fact that it had a different historical context. We watch movies with racist undertones and we still love them because that was how it was back then and people got away with it. So when a movie is truly a classic, you forgive it for the time that has passed. And I couldn't forgive this one and I couldn't get into the moment and it didn't keep my attention. And I wanted to like it so badly and couldn't. And that's why I can't give it my luck dragon.
Oh man.
I really thought I was gonna love it.
I definitely, there have been things that we've discussed that have made me begin to question my initial feeling.
Right.
Like
it's organic. It's organic. It's
exactly.
A flow. Gotcha.
I was just like, oh well, I never thought about it like that. But one thing I will say is that I don't know if the children of today would be interested in this movie. And that's what I was looking at it as. Children right now, I don't know if they would be able to sit down and be able to watch this and really stay focused, elementary school children. And so but then I said to myself, this is still good for its time frame. And for
that's one thing none of us know nothing about so far.
Yeah.
Listen.
And that could just be evidence of the nothing. That could be evidence of the nothing. The fact that they wouldn't be able to watch it. Maybe the nothing is winning.
It's so, because years ago, I was living in Mississippi and there was this cul-de-sac that during Christmas time, all the houses are lit up and they play to a station, a Christmas station. And so I was excited. I was in this cul-de-sac. I was like, and then the house on the corner had all of these different type of any character you can think of. And I remember being so excited to take these kids to go see it. And they were in the car like this. They were so unimpressed and so unbothered.
Oh,
they didn't care not one little bit. And so
nothing.
when I think of that type of generation, I do not believe that this film would be able to keep their attention. And so it saddens me to say it's not going to.
But what about the new one that I just commissioned though? Will they like that one? The new remake of the movie.
What was the new one?
The new NeverEnding Story that I just commissioned with the new effects. Will they like that one?
I think they will.
I think they would.
If they're in elementary school. If they're in elementary school. I think even with better effects, this script is not made for the big screen to me.
All right,
you cannot be on the big screen talking about the forest of sadness. But as an after school movie, a television movie.
I just text Steven Spielberg.
Thank you.
Very good.
And please tell him I said Happy New Year. As a television movie,
I call them S-Man.
Current effects, I think elementary age children will not only enjoy it, they will get the takeaway of don't be sad and use your imagination.
You're such a hater. But I would say
in this dancery.
And
I would say this movie in its current stage would not be a classic. Because I don't believe that it would still hold up to today, that people are just wanting, unless you're in that niche of Comic-Con, these different things like fantasy world, unless you're in that, because like we said, I think a classic, so how I didn't know that there's a difference between sci-fi and fantasy. In my mind, they were synonymous. So that lets you know I'm not like a fan of that type of genre, but I can still go to a Marvel movie. I can still watch Star Trek. I can watch Star Wars. I can watch all these things and have a great time.
Yep.
I love Autobots, the whole
even Game of Thrones and, The Hobbit.
Yes. Like
any of those. If they're good, they're good.
Get into it. They're good. And so I think that is what I think about, like anybody just like this. And I don't think so. That makes me sad though. I did really enjoy it. I enjoyed it.
So what's your vote?
I truly enjoyed it. No
Luck Dragon.
No Luck Dragon.
She froze up a little. Well, there it is.
Gosh, y'all. This movie is the NeverEnding Story is not a classic from the Wright Perspective. There you have it. So y'all, what's on deck next for the Wright Perspective?
I want to pick a movie.
Pick it, sis. Did you already pick it?
Yes.
Okay.
We're going to go completely different. Okay. We're jumping back into rom-com land.
Uh-oh.
I want to pick a movie that I think is a classic.
Oh no, I already know what's coming. Bro,
You know what though? No,
hang on, bro. I think I know what she's gonna say.
I changed my mind. I just changed it. Okay. The next movie that we're going to watch, because I feel like we're in this area, is Good Burger.
That's what I thought you were gonna say, sis. Honestly, that's what I thought you were going to say.
At first, I was going to say Just Right with Queen Latifah and Common, but I was like, no, that's not quite a classic. I just love that movie. But Good Burger, people know. Welcome to the Good Burger. Can I take your order? That is a thing.
Can I vote now?
No, you may not. No, you may not. You have to watch it first. And then you can vote.
This is going to be hilarious.
All right. Well,
but listen, I think that we also need to get, after we watch Good Burger, I think when we had this whole concept, we talked, it was because we would talk about musicals all the time. So I think that we got to get back into somehow making a regular visit to musical land, like it's every other podcast or whatever.
We just do one?
We did West Side Story.
Oh, we just did West Side Story, right?
Yeah, but we've done a lot of.
But just in terms of the ratios, I don't know.
Yeah, the ratios.
Musicals have gotten them right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I think, but no, I think we should watch.
So we'll do Good Burger.
I'm not going to say it, but we'll watch your movie. But I'm saying after that.
You have to say it, bro. You have to say the name of the movie. What kind of
Listen,
burger is it?
Or do you want me? No. I was going to change it to My Fair Lady. I'm not going to do it. We're going to do that after Good Burger.
Don't do it.
What kind of burger is it, bro?
Because if this movie was your first thought, I think that's the direction we should go.
Bro, is it a nasty
what is
burger?
the name of it?
Is it a juicy burger? Bro, you have to say the name of it.
You're not in the nothing.
You're not in the nothing. For those joining on audio, Aubrey has
You're not in the nothing. Come back.
And I'm also muting my microphone.
Come back from the swamp of sadness.
All right. From the nothing.
Y'all,
I was in the swamp of sadness. I think that needs to be a new thing we say all the time.
Yeah.
In our personal and professional lives.
I agree. Oh man. Oh boy. And listen, it's also about America. Anyway, we can talk about that later.
Almost made it. We almost made it.
Swamp of sadness.
Gentrification, oppression,
right.
Misdirect.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much.
This has been The Wright Perspective. We'll see you next time. We're going to be reviewing Good Burger. Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bro, I love you. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Don't make me say I love you after you do something like that. I hate when you do that.
Go.
You know I don't want to say I love you after you.
Bro, I love you.
I love you too.
I love you so much.
I love you.
Oh,
he's such a good brother. Oh,
bye.
He hates when we do this.
Yeah.
Oh, funny. It's so fun. Bye, okay. Oh, sis. After we log off of here, let's call Aubrey and do more of this. Okay. We'll call him on doing
I'm definitely going to pick up.
Yeah, we know you will. Okay, bye everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.